Bruchim Habayim, welcome everyone. We're continuing on Chot Shabbat, the beginning of Chot Shabbat. Siman Mishna is what we're starting today. The discussion of the male personnel and sending packages and items with Amazon, with USPS and UPS and so on and so forth. All of them are basically contained in this important Siman Mishna. Those non-Jews who bring the letters for the community on Shabbat, and it's on Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph of the regular prints of Mishnah Berura. Maran writes, Sholeach Adam igeret biyad eno Yehudi v'afilu be'erev Shabbat. You could even send a letter through a non-Jew on Erev Shabbat, even though that you know that he may be traveling on Shabbat, taking your letter on Shabbat still is fine, provided that shekatzatz lo damim, that you already have set a price for what you're going to pay him, and this is even right before Shabbat sets in, on Friday afternoon, the evening time, still mutar, provided that you have done ktitzat damim. Now, what is exactly the ktitzat damim? Doesn't necessarily mean that you said dollars and cents exactly how much you're going to pay, but even if you said like per job, in other words, you say, let's say if you have a larger amount, said every package that you deliver, you'll get X amount of dollars. It doesn't have to be necessarily that you put a set amount for the entire thing. It could be even, as long as it's set per amount of job that he does. So then we say adata de nafshe ka'avid, right? So for instance, you say every package that you take, every envelope that you take, you get paid this much. That Reb Chaim Portromoli in his Petach HaDvir writes that also would be included in the Ktisa. So regular case of Ktisa would be, you take my mail and I give you $5. So now he doesn't really care, the Jew, when he's going to take it, and if the goy ends up taking it on Shabbat, he's working for himself because he's not necessarily bound to take it on Shabbat with the Jews' directions, but he's doing it because he wants to get it over with and get his money that they have agreed upon. Provided that you don't tell him to work on Shabbat, you don't hint it, you don't make it in a way that he only could do it on Shabbat. All those things we discussed in previous Siman. And if you don't set a price, then it gets into a very questionable area of halakha, which we're going to discuss. But if you don't tell him to go on Shabbat and you did ktisa, it's mutar. Now, this that we say that you don't tell him to work on Shabbat obviously brings up a question. What if you give it to him on Shabbat in the post office? Right? That, of course, it will be a problem. So the Kaf HaChaim, if you take a look, I'm reading here on the side, in Ot Chet, the Kaf HaChaim writes, שאסור ליתן איגרת לגוי המכירו אפילו בקצץ שהוא ייתן האיגרת ביום שבת בבית הדואר. You can't give a package to a goy that you know in order for him to deliver it on Shabbat to the post office, because then you are meyached your melacha to be done on Shabbat. You are setting it up in such way that the goy is going to do it for you on Shabbat, and that is not allowed. Even if you have eruv and the goy is taking the package, it's now muktzeh, is taking it, and you could have really carried it yourself as well, still would be a problem, because that's considered amir al akum, and it will be an issue. Unless, again, like Chaim writes, if you have makom pseda, then there's what to talk about. If you're going to be losing in an emergency case, extenuating circumstances, one should ask a question, because then it could be shvut b'makom mitzvah or sorech or hefsed, which would be permissible under certain circumstances, and therefore one should ask a question in those scenarios. Now, this heter, the Shulchan Aruch discusses the allowance of giving a goy a package to deliver, and you're giving it to him on Friday afternoon. It's even if you really would like it to get to your recipient as soon as possible, even if it's really time sensitive, so to speak. So you would really want the guy to deliver it on Shabbat, to work on Shabbat at least, to take it on Shabbat. Still is mutar, because you're not telling him that. Even though that inside your heart you really want that to happen, but on the outside you're giving him a package, you're setting up a price for him, you're not telling him when to take it, when not to take it. As far as he's concerned, he could do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. So that which you have in your heart is not necessarily a problem, so long as you don't verbalize that, you don't communicate that feeling that you have to the goy, even though that he actually ends up working on Shabbat to do it earlier for himself. Then it's adata de nafshe. That's exactly what it is. He's working for himself, and that would be mutar, right? So it says the Mishna Berura over here. It's not just the igeret. Any job that you give a goy that there's not enough time before Shabbat to complete the job, and you're asking him to do it erev Shabbat, right? And you know that he may be running into Shabbat. You're giving your car to fix, right? On Friday afternoon, and he has to change the engine, or something that takes time. It's not just fixing a flat tire. He needs to be working on transmission, whatever. So it's probably going to take him into Shabbat, right? By not saying anything. You say, okay, how much is it? Fine, $500. Chazaku Baruch, do the job. You didn't tell him to do it on Shabbat. You didn't tell him I'm coming Motzai Shabbat 8:30 to pick up the car. You didn't say any of those things. That forces him to do it on Shabbat. We already discussed that becomes a machloket. Therefore, if a guy even ends up fixing the car entirely on Shabbat, that's his prerogative, is his choice, and you are completely in the green. Now, says the Mishna Berura, we need to have set price agreed upon between the parties for this to be mutar, because then, and only then, the goy is working for himself. He says, I know $500 I'm going to make, so therefore I'm working to get my money. It's not working for the Jew. We discussed this already before, and it's going to be afterwards in Siman as well. And so why is it that the Shulchan Aruch mentions the packages and letters out of all the other jobs of fixing a car and doing all the other things? Because lashmoinan the ilo katzas v'lo kevia bedor b'mata asur. It's for the sefa, for the second part of the Shulchan Aruch, that if you don't do kisisa, if you don't set a price as a contract job, and there is no bedor, there is no set mail office in town, then it's going to be asur, as we're going to discuss. We're going to explain the reason. Says the Chafetz Chaim, our shar kilim v'chafasim u'ma'ot, im sholech b'yad eno Yehudi b'erev Shabbat, הדין כמו בכל מלאכות, ולכך אפילו אם לא קצץ, אם יש שהות ביום להגיע למקום מי שנשתלח, לא מותר. Other things will be mutar, so long as you check the boxes that we mentioned. If you're doing through a non-Jew on Erev Shabbat, will be like any other melacha. That even if you did not do k'tzisa, if you have enough time for the goy to finish the job before Shabbat sets in, it will be mutar. So, levels of melacha. If you are giving a job to a goy to do, And there is enough time. On Friday morning, you're giving it to him. It's the engine of the car. He's just got to fix, whatever it is. He has enough time to finish it before Shabbat. Then, even if you don't have ktisa, you didn't tell him how much it's going to be. It's like, he said, okay, we'll do cheshbon with friends, whatever it is. Right? Still mutar. If there isn't enough time, you're doing it mamash before Shabbat, then he is probably going to be working on Shabbat on it. Then it's not mutar unless you have ktisa tam. I need to know tachlis, how much money. So it's $500, fine. He set up the price. Now he's working for himself, really, and that would be mutar. As well, in irregular melachot, right? The packages and letters have an extra level of complexity, as we'll see in Shulchan in a moment. Right? For delivering packages, there's this element of chashash, of concern that we have, that if there is no bedoar, if you're not delivering to a mail, to a mailbox, so to speak, to a PO box, whatever, right? Nowadays it's like, still people have like mailboxes that things get delivered to, right? If you don't have that, then the shaliach that's coming, he has to find you, right? So we're worried that he's going to come on Shabbat and not find you, and then he have to go after you and find you. That's the extra level of stringency and complexity that you have in delivering packages and letters, right? Nowadays, you have to know if that becomes an issue, if it's not a certified mail. They come and drop it by your house. They take a picture of it that they did, and you're good to go. They're good to go. You're not good to go, right? They're good to go. They don't have to necessarily find you and give it to you, So it's more simple the way it's done nowadays than the way it was in the time of Shulchan Aruch. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now we're going to actually read the Shulchan Aruch and discuss this, right?
Let's say if you're ordering an Amazon package and it's scheduled to deliver on Saturday.
Okay, we'll get to that. The next day mails, scheduled deliveries and all those things. So it's first the structure of the Shulchan Aruch. So here the second part, it says, if you did not set a price for the job, if you don't have a mail, a mail room, a mailbox, or a mail office, in other words, there's some cities, the more sophisticated cities, what they had was all the incoming mail into the town would go into a post office. And people would come to the post office to deliver or the post office, the local post office would now take it from here and they would deliver to the people who they knew. So that instead of some foreigner coming in, wandering and stumbling around, trying to find out Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, which he has no idea who they are, where they live, they just drop off all the mail to the local post office, and the local post office knows exactly where Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda live, and they go and find them and deliver the mail. So if you have that service of a post office locally, then it's much easier. Says the Shulchan Aruch, if you have a bedoar, if you have a post office, fine. If you have bedoar, if you don't have a post office, a man or a organization, a place that is known and whose job is to take it from the outcome, the incoming mail, and send it to the people in town. Asur lishlach afilu miyom rishon. Then even from Sunday, it's questionable if you could send. It's not mutar, right? But if you do have a post office in town, then you could do it even on Erev Shabbat, even without ktisa. So therefore, if you didn't set a price, if you have this post office business in town, then you can send even on Erev Shabbat, even though that you didn't do ktisa. If you don't have a post office available, then you cannot send it even from Sunday, right? Now, before we get too deep into details of this, the Mishna Berura writes, look via Bedoar, that you don't have a post office in town. That you don't have a set post office or mailman in that town that he handles all the incoming mail of the city. Even if you have a mailman, but sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not. Depends, it's vacation, he goes to the mountains, he goes here, he goes to a different town. If it's not a set job that he's always there, then it's asur. Why? Because maybe the goy is not going to find him. The mailman is nowhere to be found, right? And then he's going to go after him on Shabbat and try to find him. Therefore, we are super duper machmir. And we are very concerned because he's carrying the letter, the box, the package of the Jew. And everyone knows that it comes with the Magen David on it, the Israeli flag, whatever, or his name was on it. People will be concerned and think that the Yid, the Jew, gave this to the goy on Shabbat to deliver, and that's marit ayin, right? That's marit ayin. Ve'im ken, and therefore, im nichtava igeret b'chtav eno Yehudi, if it's written in a way that has no resemblance of any Jewish nothing, it's written in English, it's a business transaction, documentation, no Jewish resemblance of any sort on the package, on the letter, on anything, then then this whole thing doesn't apply, because there's no marit ayin. He has an envelope. Who knows what the envelope is? The stamp is not Magen David. There's nothing, nothing that remotely would resemble a Jewish sender, and therefore it would be mutar even on Erev Shabbat and even without ksisa, right? So I realize that this is a 3 layers, so we have to keep, cheshbon of each one of them. This is the most chamor. There's Erev Shabbat, you're sending no ktisa and no bedoar, right? You have nothing, and still is mutar if there's no resemblance of any Jewish thing in the package that is being sent. Kol sheyachol lagia sham mibod yom, with one given parameter that it could get there on Friday. It's not for sure going to be on Shabbat. It's enough time in the day when you send it Friday morning. There's plenty of time to get there before Shabbat. Then it will be mutar. Okay? Ve'nireh. לבית ראשון הסמוך לחומה, וכמו שהתרנו לאל בשולח שאר כלים וחפצים על ידי אינו יהודי. This follows the same din of what we discussed before in the previous Siman. Now, the Shulchan Aruch wrote that if there is no bedoar, if there is no post office or mailman designated in the recipient's town, it's going to be asur to send, says the Chafetz Chaim, from Olat Shabbat he brings, that all of this is talking about the case that you are sending through a non-Jew, leyat bedoar, through to go to the post office, right? If you are sending directly to your friend, right? I'm sending to Nathaniel. I'm going around the whole post office. I'm hiring a guy, and he has his address. He's going directly to get to him. And there's no concern that maybe he's not going to find Nathaniel in his house, and he's going to go around town looking for him on Shabbat. That is mutar even on Erev Shabbat, even without Ketzisa, given provided that he could get there to his house already before Shabbat kicks in. Taz and Magravam are a little bit more stringent, that even if you sending rather a package or a letter to your friend directly, to his house, right, circumventing the whole bedoar, the whole post office, still we are concerned that he's not going to find the recipient. He has to get a signature from him, right? So all you do if you knock and he's not there. So where is Netanel? He's in Bet Midrash. Where else? Okay, he comes to this Bet Midrash. He's not there, right? Doesn't mean he's not in Bet Midrash. That means he's a different Bet Midrash. Now go around town, try to find, and you show the people this guy, and it has all Hebrew written on it. That sounds on Shabbat. Somebody sent the package, and therefore Magen Avraham and Taz are more stringent. ובפירוש רבנו חננאל שיצא עתה לאור מוכח כעולת שבת. Says if you take a look at the Rabbeinu Hananel's writings that we recently were zoche to find, says the Chavetz Chaim, it's mashma to be mekel like the Olat Shabbat, that direct recipient, not bedoar. If I'm sending directly to my friend with his address and so on, there's no chashash that the guy is going to be going around trying to find him, and therefore it will be mutar, so long as the estimation is that he could well before Shabbat get there, deliver, and come back. Umiu, if you told the goy, your shaliach, directly, said, you go to my friend's house and you give it to his household, right? If you don't find him, you give it to his wife. All right? To his kids, to his first cousin twice removed. Well, you give it to his household if he's not there. Himself, the kula al mashay, they're not going to everyone's mutar because you said it. He said, I don't want you to go around. You go there to this address. If he's there, good. If not, you put it in the mailbox. You slide it under the door. I don't care. You give it to whoever is there. Nobody's home. You slide under the door and khalas. That to everyone would be mutar because now he's not going to go around for sure. Even in the case that there's no k'tzisa, you didn't set up price, and there's no bedor. So long as he could get to the town, it will be completely fine. And if not, said the Shulchan Aruch, if you don't have a k'tzisa, you did not set up a price, and there's no bedor in town either, then the Shulchan Aruch said even miyom rishon is going to be a problem. Even from Sunday you can't send it. Chavetz Chaim says, why is it the problem miyom rishon? Imhu derech karov kekon malach yom echad. If it says if the destination is very close by, it's one day different. Niradaf imhu meshalecho biyom sheni v'shlishi shari. It says then yom rishon sheni shlishi is mutar, because you're not concerned that they're gonna start from Sunday and get there on Friday or Shabbat. You know that if they start on Sunday, they're going to be there on Monday. Monday, they're going to be there Tuesday. Tuesday, they're going to be there Wednesday. You don't have to concern yourself too much with that, at least up until the third day, Yom Shlishi, Tuesday, that if you don't find him, there's still going to be plenty of time, ample time to set it up straight and to fix the situation. We will stop here, but Hashem will be continuing in the days to come.